What's up rushers, Michael here back on the channel. Today we are tackling the ultimate daily dungeon guide for Summoner's War Rush. I'll break down the best team setups for each resource dungeon and give you the key information on all the bosses you will face. Plus, I've got a huge time saving trick to share, so stick around, you don't want to miss it. I also want to take a moment to sincerely thank every single one of you. We just hit over 100 subscribers on the channel, which is honestly mind-blowing. Your support means the world to me, and I'm incredibly grateful for each and every single one of you. Alright, let's dive straight into the guide and start crushing these dungeons. So let's start with the gold dungeon. The gold dungeon is very important in Summoner's War Rush as it offers a lot of coins. Now as you can see here, the higher you are in floors, exponentially it will increase as soon as you get to 400 being the max floor at the moment. So you want to get in here every single day so you're maximizing the amount of gold you're getting. And you can directly use these coins for the training area. This allows you to further upgrade your attack, defense, and HP. I would upgrade these being attack first, followed by HP, lastly being defense. So moving back to the gold dungeon, let's talk a little bit about the actual boss. Now Goose Queen only has one basic attack, and that is deals 230% of attack as damage to the target, and that's it. She is one of the easiest bosses to take down within the daily dungeon, so pay close attention, especially to the next point that I will bring up, and that is being the range monster attack buff. As you can see, you get an additional 131% of attack if you deploy a ranged unit. Every single ranged unit that you deploy obtains this massive attack boost, so make sure majority of your units within here are ranged units. Like I mentioned with the attack buff, you want to use majority of ranged units. So starting with Lima, she is very necessary in the formation because of her root and blind status effects. Root will disable the gold dungeon boss from moving, paired with her blind status effect, causing the gold dungeon boss to miss basic attacks. So Lima counters the entire gold dungeon boss. She is a must-have within here. Moving on to Rena, she is strictly here for her attack buff to range allies for 10 seconds. You want to deal as much damage as possible, so make sure you're slotting her in. Paired with Delphoy, she is here for the crush damage buff to range allies for 2 seconds. Like I mentioned with Rena, she is an additional character that provides more damage to the entire team. And don't forget, she does offer a sleep crowd control effect. This enables the gold dungeon boss to perform action and also decreases that gold dungeon boss's graze rate by an additional 20%. Make sure you're slotting in Delphoy. The GOAT in Summoner's War Rush, she is here for her double hit rate buff to all allies for 10 seconds. Not only does she provide that incredible buff, but she does the most damage out of all of the other characters in the game. Make sure you're slotting in Sabrina. Now on to Cassandra. She is here for the crit rate buff to all allies for 10 seconds. Not only does she provide one of the best buffs in the game, but she deals a significant amount of damage. So make sure you are slotting in Cassandra because she is very good in this formation. Charlotte is another crucial character within here. As you can see, she applies a cooldown reduction buff to every single ranged ally for 10 seconds. This directly decreases the skill cooldown for all your ranged allies by 20%. That means they will deploy more skills during battle, which means more overall damage will be dealt to the gold dungeon boss. Please slot in Charlotte within the formation because she is a game changer. Grogen is another crucial character within here, offering one of the best crowd control effects in the game called Petrify. This again enables the gold dungeon boss to perform actions, along with decreasing the boss's evasion by 20% during the duration, paired with his crush rate buff to range allies for 2 seconds, makes Grogen another game-changing unit within here. Moving on to Jian, you might be wondering why is she in the formation? Well, it's because of her exclusive skill being attack speed up buff to all allies for 10 seconds. Like I mentioned, if you pair this buff with that increased ranged attack, those two paired together will deal a significant amount of damage to the boss. You want to make sure you are slotting Jian within the formation. Now on to the newly added Annabelle. She is in here for the very good frostbite damage over time effect. This will last for 10 seconds and deal damage equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds, making her a very strong unit to have within here, along by offering a level 5 movement speed up buff to all allies for 10 seconds, making sure no time is wasted in battle. In my opinion, she is another must-have within the Gold Dungeon boss. My last pick within this formation is actually Kali. She provides an awesome defense down debuff for 2 seconds. This directly decreases defense by 16%. This will make the Gold Dungeon boss even more easier to take out. Make sure you are slotting Kali within the formation, because she also offers another crit rate buff to herself for 10 seconds, which means she will deal even more damage within here. So now let's put this formation to the test. As you can see, my overall power is very high, so the Gold Dungeon boss will go down relatively fast, but keep in mind, even if you have lower power, this formation is still very good. So let's jump right in here and let's see how fast I can take out the Gold Dungeon boss using this formation. I'll also show you the damage as well. So much damage by Annabelle and Sabrina there. We've already nearly taken it out in 5 seconds, and there you go, it's already over. As you can see, we just demolished the Gold Dungeon boss. But now things will get a little bit harder as we move on to the Monster EXP Dungeon. Now, why is it important to push this particular dungeon in Summoner's War Rush? Well, it's important because you can use these Monster EXP tokens to directly upgrade all of your monsters. So for example, if I want to upgrade my ghost, I use this currency to upgrade him. But don't forget, you actually get breakthrough stones here as well. This only applies per floor that you beat and isn't included in all of the first clear rewards, as you can see on the screen here. Once you get a particular monster to level 50, these stones are required to upgrade that monster higher. So using a better example, I have Tetra here. It will cost me 10,000 of these breakthrough stones to upgrade her to level 55. From level 55, it will cost me 17,000 to get a particular monster to level 60. From level 60, it will take me an additional 27,000 breakthrough stones to upgrade and fully max out that hero to level 65. So I can't stress this enough, make sure you're doing this dungeon every single day. What does the Monster EXP Dungeon boss even do? Well, as you can see here, it doesn't only have a basic attack being the same as the Gold Dungeon boss, but it has an additional 2 skills that we will cover. The first being crit attack, dealing an additional 360% of attack as crit damage to enemies within 3 meters of the target. Upon a successful hit, cast a frostbite damage over time effect for 5 seconds. This will deal damage to your entire formation equal to 20% of attack every 0.2 seconds. And this skill alone makes the Monster EXP dungeon infinitely even harder, along with her exclusive skill dealing even more of attack as damage to enemies, along with casting her own additional root status effect for 10 seconds, followed by a cooldown reduction buff to itself for 10 seconds. So like we mentioned with the root status effect, this will disable our entire team from moving, along with buffing herself, making her skills cooldown lower so she can perform more skills within battle. So a lot of players might be struggling with this particular dungeon, but don't worry, I have the formation to crush it. But before we get into the formation, like we said with the other dungeon, as you can see at the bottom here, melee monster attack will increase by 131%. Again, you want to include at least 9 melee monsters within the formation. Talking about Naomi first, she is here for her great bleed damage over time effect, along with applying a crush rate up buff to all melee allies for 10 seconds. Now, if you want to deal as much damage as possible, Naomi is here to help. Moving on to Galleon, in my opinion, probably one of the most underrated monsters in Summoner's War Rush. She offers a significant amount of damage, especially applying a lot of buffs, for example a crit damage buff to herself for 10 seconds. If you invest in her even higher, she will buff 10% of crit rate to herself. So the higher you have Galleon built, the better she becomes. Definitely slot her in if you want to deal more damage. Of course you want to have Sabrina in the formation. She is the best character in the game by far. As you may notice, she is the only ranged unit within this formation. Now on to Feng. Feng is here for the sole fact that he has a crit rate down debuff for 2 seconds. This will make sure that the boss will not be doing as much damage because the boss's crit rate will go down by a significant 20%. So you want to make sure Feng is in the formation. Along with Vanessa, offering an attack buff to all melee allies for 2 seconds, followed by her great stun crowd control effect. This will enable the Monster EXP dungeon boss from performing actions, so she is a must-have within this formation. Now on to Melissa, one of the best melee units in Summoner's War Rush. She will offer a crit damage up buff to all melee allies for 2 seconds. Now, like we mentioned, we want to deal as much damage as possible. Melissa is here to provide and do exactly that. To follow, she also applies an amplify buff to all allies for 10 seconds. This increases the attack modifier points by 60%, and this applies to every single hit, making everyone very, very strong. If you haven't already, please include Melissa in the formation. Followed by yet again GN, offering that incredible attack speed up buff to all allies. She is again a must have within here. And of course, pairing that with the attack buff for melee units, she will deal even more damage within this dungeon. You might be wondering, why is Akaryu in this formation? Well, he offers this fantastic attack buff to all melee allies for 10 seconds. Like we mentioned before, you want to deal as much damage as possible, and he is here to provide that. Moving on to Light Monkey, offering a great defense down debuff for 10 seconds, making the Monster EXP boss even more weak and easier to take out. So you definitely want to slot him in within the formation. On to Artemel, an absolute machine when it comes to the daily dungeons. As you can see, he offers a damage res down debuff for 10 seconds. Now this will decrease the damage res by 20% from the boss, along by offering a crush rate buff to all melee allies for 2 seconds. You definitely want to include Artemel in this formation. Now let's put this formation to the test. Let's see how fast we can take this out. Yet again, I am pretty high power within here, so it's basically speed running through this. But let's check who is dealing the most damage within here. As you can see, Melissa and Artemel, of course, paired with Sabrina, dealing so much damage in here. And there you go, it's already over. So I hope this team helps you crush the Monster EXP dungeon. But now moving to one of the hardest dungeons in the game, and that is the Relic Piece Dungeon. It is crucial to focus on the Relic Piece Dungeon every single day because it offers you both the relic pieces and maps to upgrade your relics inside of Summoner's War Rush. Like we mentioned before, all of these stats will offer you a tremendous boost in your total power, and not only does this help with relics, but for ancient relics as well. And it is the only avenue that supplies you resources to summon ancient relics, so make sure you are getting in the Relic Piece Dungeon and crushing these bosses. As you can see by all the rewards, you will get a significant amount of these relic pieces. Until you hit 141, this will provide you ancient relic stones so you can summon ancient relics. And this is applied to every 10 levels as high as you can go, all the way up to floor 400, which is right now the max. But what does the Relic Piece Dungeon boss even do? Well, as we read through his stats, offering the same basic attack, along with a very similar crit attack as well, offering now a damage over time burn effect for 5 seconds, paired with one of the best crowd control effects, which is Petrify. If he gets this skill deployed, it is very hard to beat him, because then your entire team will be unable to perform actions, and additionally will decrease your entire team's evasion by 20% during that duration. So you want to take out this boss as fast as possible. As you can see at the bottom, the attack speed buff will help with doing this, so please keep that in mind. Now going into the formation, we have touched on every single unit within this formation, but the top 3 must-haves, and there are no particular replacements for them, are going to be Lima, Sabrina, and Melissa. These 3 characters will crush the Relic Piece Dungeon boss, so there are no direct replacements for them. Even if you have a single copy of all of these units within this formation, slot them in. The synergy with all of these monsters inside of this formation are so strong. Especially pairing that additional 40% attack speed along with Jian's attack speed buff to all allies. You will get a total 60% attack speed in the Relic Piece Dungeon, only of course if you have Jian offering the additional 20%. So let's put this formation to the test and see how fast I can take it out. Like we mentioned, this formation is very strong and my character levels are very high, but as you can see, the total damage Lima, Sabrina, Cassandra are dealing ton of damage within here, and like we mentioned, we've already taken out the boss. I know a lot of people may struggle with this particular dungeon and beyond, so if you literally cannot beat the Relic Piece Dungeon boss, then I would recommend to quick battle here. The quick battle feature will allow you to attain the rewards, as you can see in the top right area. Don't let these keys go to waste, because keys do not stack every single day. Following the Mastery Dungeon, another very hard dungeon inside of Summoner's War Rush, but you definitely want to come in here and claim all of the first clear rewards, as these Mastery tokens are a major key to increasing your overall power within Summoner's War Rush. As you can see here, you will use all of your Mastery tokens in here to level up stats such as triple hit, accuracy, along with attack and crit damage, and sometimes even crit rate. So it's definitely worthwhile to come in here and upgrade this mastery tree every single day. But moving back to the dungeon, as you can see at the bottom, this dungeon offers 138% increased crit damage using the same formation as we had in the Relic Piece Dungeon boss. Will work wonders within the Mastery Dungeon, but before we get into that, let's quickly touch on all of the Mastery Dungeon boss's skills. Again, offering the same basic and crit attacks, but this time, Venom is casted as the damage over time effect, along with his exclusive skill now offers a stun crowd control effect for 3.5 seconds. This can be the do or die situation if you can beat a particular dungeon stage. But don't worry if you fail, because it will not take a dungeon key away from you, so you can attempt the same floor stage as many times as you want to. So now let's put this formation to the test and see how fast we can take out the Mastery Dungeon boss. Put it to camera free so you can get a better view, along with everyone's damage. As you can see, Sabrina, Lima, Cassandra, Melissa all doing fantastic amounts of damage, and there you go, it's already over. This formation is very strong. Of course, if you have higher investments, the more damage you will do with those particular characters. However, even if you have a single copy of these characters, they still will cast their exclusive skills. However, if you have them highly invested with Devilmon, not only will their skills be casted at the start of battle, but will do even more damage with their high investments. But don't worry, you don't need to go all in on Devilmon with every single unit in here to be successful in the daily dungeons. Moving on to the final dungeon, which is the Critter EXP dungeon. This is the main area to get the Critter EXP tokens. This will exponentially increase as you increase your floor levels within here. So make sure you are coming within the Critter EXP dungeon, because this is the only way to make a significant increase in power by leveling all of your critters up to a higher level, meaning that you will skyrocket your total power. But moving back to the Critter EXP dungeon, what does this boss do? Well, when we talk about his basic attack and crit attack, these are pretty much the same for all of the daily dungeons. However, this time he provides a frostbite damage over time effect for 5 seconds, making him one of the hardest bosses to take out. Paired with his exclusive skill, now causes a blind status effect. So if this skill happens in battle, it will cause all of your targets to miss basic attacks, which means even more less overall damage dealt to this particular dungeon boss. Like we mentioned with every single dungeon within here, there is an increased stat, this one being crush damage, increasing by 119%. You want to use the exact formation for the Critter EXP dungeon. Let's put it to the test. I want to see how fast we can take this out, putting it on the second camera angle so we can have a better view. And the overall damage, Lima, Artemel this time is doing a tremendous amount of damage, and it is nearly down. There it is, took it down very easily. So there we have it. That is the strategy to take out every single daily dungeon within here. I want to show you a crucial trick to save you a bunch of time in every single one of these dungeons. So for this trick to work, you have to be at a particular floor within the dungeon. This may vary from dungeon to dungeon. I believe it's around 141 to 151 floor stage that you have to be in every single dungeon to make them play in the background. I'll show you exactly what I mean by running through every single dungeon. So let's get started with the gold dungeon. You want to enter in and as you can see on the left side, you want to press that button, go back, go into the next dungeon, enter in, and do the exact same for every single dungeon. As you can see on the left hand side, it will play all of the dungeons for you while you complete other tasks in the game. So please make sure every single day you are coming in and completing your daily dungeons, because all of these resources cannot be missed out on. And like we mentioned before, keys do not stack, so if you miss out on one day, you will be one day behind in your dungeons. That wraps up our daily dungeon guide for Summoner's War Rush. I hope this breakdown helps you dominate those dungeons and snag the resources you need. If you've got more questions about the daily dungeons, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. If you want a more in-depth chat, come join my Discord, which is linked in the description. If you found today's video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Summoner's War Rush content. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.